I just come back to think, I don't know if there was one situation, one free agent left tackle out there where I would have been like, yes, that's a home run signing. Yeah, Veach got his guy.
Right. There's
Let's
nothing
go.
you were going to be like, oh my God. Like, yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. And that's the thing is like Jalen Moore, when you start to look at the money, probably the best deal, maybe the best bargain out of all the tackles that signed. It's that football show here on KC Sports Network. Tucker Franklin, hanging out with Matt Verderame, as always, what we do here on Wednesdays and now Saturdays for you here on that football show. Got a busy episode of that football show. And look, I kind of called it last week. I said that we were going to have a lot to talk about on our Wednesday edition, and we do. We got to thank our sponsors, Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, Holiday Distillery, wonderful people, wonderful products there. Make sure to drink responsibly, obviously, if you are enjoying Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon or Holiday Distillery products. But Matt, it's been a busy few days here. How you feeling?
I feel good. We seem to be having a good synergy. We accidentally wore the exact same shirt, essentially. You wore a t-shirt, I wore a hoodie, so at least, a little bit different. But yeah, all Juice team for life. Yeah. I feel good. Monday is like my version of, I feel like I've staggered into like the corner in a boxing ring after like round 12 in a fight with like 1986 Mike Tyson.
Right.
And my editor is basically just like, cutting me under the eye and, putting an ice bag on my neck. And I'm like, I don't know where I am. He's like, just get in there.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Monday was insane. Tuesday was a lot less insane. And now free agency starts at 3:00 Central on Wednesday. And I feel like it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit too, like who all's left on the market, and hopefully that this podcast is a little relevant for you guys, at least for a little bit before it hits the airwaves and the Chiefs make another move. We're gonna kind of go in reverse chronological order, right? Of how the Chiefs have been making their moves here and kind of running through and giving our thoughts and reactions. Obviously, I've been on every breaking news team. Matt, you were on Saturday's breaking news team with us as we got the Hollywood Brown news. But we've been doing these breaking news teams every time the Chiefs have made a signing. We've been there breaking it down. And so we have those on the record as well. You can obviously go back and watch those. Go back and listen to those as well. They're also podcast as well if you want our live in the moment reactions. But just before we hopped on here, Matt, the Chiefs did do a little bit of cap maneuvering, which a move that they needed to do, and that was kind of anticipated. One half of the move, I should say, was anticipated. The other half, I'm not surprised by the other half, but I don't think necessarily it was anticipated. The Chiefs have restructured the contracts of Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones, creating almost $50 million in cap space, 49.446 in cap space per Field Yates. Prior to this, look, the sites vary between Spot Track and Over the Cap, which one you want to use. I don't necessarily care. Spot Track seems to update faster. When I'm doing the breaking news team, I'll just go there because they usually throw the contracts in there a little bit quicker. I think Over the Cap had them like $20 million over. Spot Track had them closer to like 18. Regardless, they were still well over the cap, and they needed to be cap compliant by today. This is a move, the Mahomes restructure, that we kind of anticipated. Thoughts on also restructuring Jones on top of it in the space that it does create?
Look, I mean, when they were stuck with the $23.4 million tag because they can't figure out how to sign Trey Smith long term, they were going to have to open up some money. The Mahomes contract is just like permanent get out of jail free card with the cap because they can just keep kicking the money down the road. Then they'll just redo the contract in 2 or 3 years. So that was obvious. The Jones one's interesting. They didn't have to do Chris Jones to be cap compliant. They did it anyway. That basically just, all that does for anyone who doesn't understand the mechanism, it just kicks some of the current money into future years. But that money that you kick into future years becomes fully guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So it essentially makes it a lot harder to cut a guy down the line. Now, obviously, with Mahomes, they don't care. With Jones, they feel confident enough the way he's been playing that, okay, fine, we'll do that. And we're okay with that. I'm fine with it. Like, I thought, I know they said they wouldn't do it. I thought maybe at some point they'd split the baby with Kelsey's money.
Yeah.
And just, void year it or something. They didn't do that. But now, I mean, look, regardless of the site used, and there's still a little bit of unknown because like Bolton's contract hasn't been put out there yet.
100%.
I mean, they have cap space. They have more than enough to sign a draft class, to have some breathing room, to sign a few more, smaller free agents, if you will. And they could certainly open up a lot more cap space if they could just sign Trey Smith, although that probably won't happen until spring or early summer. But I think when you look at this team right now, what is left to sign? I mean, you could argue for a receiver, potentially, or they could draft one. And then really the D-line. The D-line is kind of the area you look at and go, all right, they got to do something.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, at this point, do you just bring a Menahu back? Do you just say, do you want a 1-year deal for, whatever it is, at $9 million? Maybe you do that. Maybe you give him a 2-year deal and you smooth out the hit a little bit. So they've got options. But realistically, yeah, and they needed the space. I'm not surprised that they did it. I'm a little surprised they touched Jones's deal, but I'm not shocked by it. So yeah, it makes sense.
Good explanation on kind of how that works. I know that that the term restructure is just kind of thrown out all the time. It's just kind of loosey goosey right there. I do always love the people that are like, "Hey, we should restructure this dude on a 1-year contract." Like, hey, can't do that. That's not real. I think some people, I saw some people saying that about Jawan Taylor, even the Joe Tooney stuff before he was traded. They're like, "Oh, they should restructure Joe Tooney." I was like, "Well, they'd have to sign him to a new deal." They signed Jawan Taylor to a new deal, but a good explanation on kind of how all that works out there. I will be interested too, and that was kind of my first reaction of, okay, that's obviously more than what they needed to be cap compliant. Right. I obviously need more players on their team before you feel totally comfortable rolling the ball out there. Defensive line, specifically tackle and end, I think are both a couple of positions that I would like to see. Now, heavy defensive line draft class. I want to put that out there. I want that to be done. Heavy, good defensive line class. I wouldn't be surprised
in the draft.
Yes.
Or running back.
If the Chiefs drafted defensive tackle at 31, I would not be surprised. There'll be some good defensive tackles there, or edge rusher. Like, they will draft in the trenches the first 4 picks they have, I bet. Would not be surprised if they pick trenches in those first 4 picks, either offensive or defensive side of the ball. Regardless, you still want to add some more bodies there, some more depth. So the first time I saw this, I'm like, okay, if you think, let's be generous here, let's be a little on how much cap space the Chiefs were over. Let's say it was 20 million, right? You take that away from the 49, they have 19 million about in cap space. I look at that, I look at the market also, and I'm like, well, I don't know if there's anyone else there that's a big money splash signing that you could convince yourself that they could sign out here. I think that, we were kind of talking about earlier, probably wide receiver will be the only other one that you're looking at. The guys on there that could deserve bigger money. I'll say that in air quotes, bigger money at this point in free agency, as we're now in wave 3. But this to me is more just like, okay, let's become cap compliant and let's get enough cap to fill out a roster, to sign some 1-year deals, to sign maybe a couple multi-year deals, low end money, multi-year, couple-year deals to fill out this roster and fill out some of these remaining the gaps that they have in this roster. That's what this move kind of signaled to me.
Yeah, I know. Don't forget too, they need a backup quarterback.
Absolutely.
They haven't done that yet. They right now the defensive line are thin. Like, they have Chris Jones and nobody at defensive tackle. Like, literally, it's Chris Jones. I don't want to see them re-sign Derek Nottie. I go get some other guys, man.
Yeah, let's get some new. I don't need Mike Pennell either.
Yeah, I don't need to see a guy who every damn play I'm like, all right, cool, he did nothing, but he's on the field, so he's physically active. Like Mike Pennell. Listen, I'm with you. And I always like Mike Pennell in the sense he's always been a good run stuffer and has come up really big for them in multiple Super Bowl runs. But I'm also with you. It's over. It's over. He's 34 years old. I think sometimes, whatever, not to be philosophical, life, sports, change is a scary thing. Sometimes change is a necessary thing. Yeah. They need to be willing to kind of just roll with the punches here. Now, I don't want them going full on Buffalo and going and sign, Joey Bosa to go play 4 games for $15 million a year.
Right.
But I do think there's value. Look, even a Menahu, if they don't sign him, fine. You know what? I'll give you a guy. I like Azeez Ojulari from the Giants. A good player. I'd offer him a 2-year contract. I'd give him 2 and 20. I just think, sometimes there's a little value in some new blood, a new locker room. And it's hard when you're a team like them where all you've done is won. And you've won, multiple Super Bowls, and you've been to 3 in a row, and there's a natural inclination to just be like, we got to bring this exact same team back because this exact same team is gold. This is a very weird thing to say about a team that has done what it's done. I kind of feel like the last 2 years, this team has been holding on with its fingernails, which is in a weird way an incredible compliment to them. To do what they've done, despite that, is incredible.
Right.
And I guess I mean that more offensively than defensively, because defensively they've been very good and fine. But it's time to just make a change. It's time to I don't want Isaiah Pacheco having 20 carries a game anymore. I just don't. Isaiah Pacheco's fine. They can get better running back. I love Travis Kelce to death, but it's time, man. They got to utilize other parts of the offense.
Right.
The offense is going to be different this year, even without a huge overhaul in personnel. Obviously the left side of the lines, if I'll get that. But I think, look, if I'm the Chiefs, I like that they brought in Christian Fulton. And I like that they, allowed Wharton to get $18 million a year somewhere else. Look, I am happy as hell for Deshaun Wharton. I got to tell you, if the Chiefs had given him 3 years and $54 million, I would have done an emergency pod that would have lasted about 6 hours. Okay? That is an egregious amount of money. Sometimes you got to just shake it up. And I think they are somewhat on their way to doing that. Here with a draft class. It's now bigger because they got some comp picks. I expect that.
Yeah. 2 7th-round picks for Brett Veach, so naturally they're going to have 2 starting corners, is what that means. 2 new starting corners for 7-round picks. I had to Zach Eisen for that joke. I saw on the timeline when it hit. But you mentioned the Christian Fulton move. Let's talk about that one, because that was one move that, Matt, I don't know if I necessarily anticipated the Chiefs to sign, but I think on Monday I was in some group chats talking with some buddies about hey, you look at the cornerback room, they're a twisted ankle away from not being able to cover a soul. And so,
oh my God, yeah,
they really did need to add some. I say depth, but I think Christian Fulton's more than just depth. I think this is this is a signing that is very. It's going to be very important to this defense, the way that they're able to play and perform. I hesitate to overstate the importance of the signing, but I do think it's one of those that we're going to be looking back on in October and November and being like, "Woof, boy, they might have really struck gold here with Christian Fulton." And look, the last time they signed somebody from the Chargers defense, we thought the same thing as Drew Tranquill. You just kept thinking, whoa, boy, I can't believe we are able to sign this guy. I think that'll kind of be the same with Christian Fulton. Thoughts on his deal?
I think it was necessary. Of all the signings they've made, of all the moves they've made, that's my favorite one. Because first of all, I like Fulton. I always have, even when he's at LSU. He's a pretty big corner. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. And he's physical. He likes to get his hands on you. He's a press corner. He's a boundary corner. He doesn't play in the slot. He's outside. Well, that's kind of if I had to describe to you what they needed, that's kind of what they need. They play more press than anybody. They like big physical corners on the outside. If you look at Steve Spagnuolo's system, that's what they do. They are big, physical guys.
Right.
2 years, $20 million for that, it's fine. I think if you watch Christian Fulton, there's a guy he's always kind of reminded me of. It's Rashad Breeland. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's totally fine. But more or as importantly, I guess depending on your perspective, it also allows Trent McDuffie now to move all over the field. That is meaningful. I can tell you right now from talking to people around that whole situation, that was a huge part of the reason they signed Christian Fulton. Was because now McDuffie can play inside. Then when they go to just their base package, McDuffie goes back outside.
Right.
Last year they couldn't do that. I mean, in the base package, he certainly was outside. But even a lot of times, most of the time, he played outside even in the nickel because they had nobody else. Najee Johnson couldn't do it. Joshua Williams couldn't do it. Now you put him back inside. Like, I would argue, how many teams in the league have a better trio of corners than them?
Not many.
Literally maybe zero.
Yeah.
Like now, and I'm not trying to make Fulton out like he's great, but my point is, if McDuffie's a top 3 corner in football, which he is, Jalen Watson last year played like a star before he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Fulton's your cornerback. If he's your third guy, or if you want to argue he's the 2 and Watson's the 3, like whoever the hell's your 3 out of that group is pretty damn good. Like that guy's a good 2. So no, I think it adds a lot to them. And look, now that Justin Reed has gone to New Orleans, you don't want to have to be scrambling back there, and they have safeties. But now I wonder with this too, does Jamari Conner move back to being a safety? Mm-hmm. Like, is this more like now he's the third safety?
Yeah,
which is really what he should be.
I agree.
And it allows you to now we've got the 3. I'd still draft another corner. Because I don't want to watch Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams play if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, I will say this, though. I think Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams in doses is a lot better than what we got last year. I think having... I know.
No, it's... I had enough of a dose, okay? My cup runneth over. I don't ever need to see either one of them on the field again, ever. Like, and by the way, I think Spags is with me on this one, because if you look at Joshua...
That's fair.
You look at Joshua Williams' game log last year. So, like, there's a point in time where he's snapping out, like the last 6 games of the year, including that Denver game, he's seeing 78%, 63%, 71%, 57.5%, 54.5%, 68.9%. Would you like to take a guess at how many snaps you saw in the playoffs?
0.
0. Yeah. 0. They got to the playoffs, and Spags is like, hey, Josh, why don't you stand next to me and hold the clipboard? Like, I don't trust you to play in a blowout game against Houston at the end. You might get them back in it. You stand here. You think about what you did. And then as far as Najee Johnson goes, obviously we all saw Najee Johnson playing last year for a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Najee Johnson's game log, let me pull it up real quick. Here we go. So he, just like Williams, saw a lot of time at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He played 50% of the snaps in the divisional round. The Chiefs saw that and were like, how do you feel about 19 snaps, 26% in the AFC title game? And then got to the Super Bowl, and they're like, how about 1 snap? You can say you played in it. Like, I just, look, man, if we're talking about some throwaway game in the regular season against some team that sucks, fine. I got to tell you, in any meaningful spot, I don't want one of those 2 guys sniffing the field. And you are a pulled hammy away from one of those 2 guys starting a playoff game. So yeah. I would invest with one of my top 75 picks.
All I'm saying, Matt, is maybe if they have the right role, they can flourish.
What is the right left bench? Let's put him over a left bench. He's really good at that. He's going to go all pro.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back after this.
Do you put him in at the end?
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
No, we're not letting this go because of the break. I want to know what is the right role? What is it?
Gunner on special teams, obviously.
Oh, fine. You want to throw them out there on special teams? That's fine. Okay, I'm fine with that. You want to have them as cornerback 5 and 6? Great. But and for the record, to kind of just buttress this, I've always kind of liked Joshua Williams.
Yeah, great guy. He's a locker room guy for sure.
Yeah, and I even mean times against a corner, he's done some things, but Spags clearly is you're not playing on my defense. You're not.
Yeah.
I feel there should be a 30 for 30 done on how they beat the Bengals in the 2022 AFC Championship game. That game might have destroyed Cincinnati as a city. If you go back and look at that game, how they won that game. All right. This is off topic, but to be serious for a minute.
Nope. Let's do it.
If somebody said to me, out of this whole dynasty, which game exemplifies what they're all about? That game. That game is the game for me. Mahomes is on one leg. Kelsey's back's all screwed up. They're throwing a Marcus Kemp in the fourth quarter of an AFC Championship game, right? Hardman's out. Juju's out. Tony's out. Kelsey's all fucked up. Mahomes has one leg. If people remember, that was the MVS game.
Yeah.
Where to his credit, and I got on him so bad he blocked me on Twitter, okay? And I didn't even tag him. The man searched me out.
We're in the same club there. We're both in the MVS
club. Yeah, and rightfully so. But that was the MVS game. Defensively, they were starting 3 rookie corners because Snead got hurt the first drive of the game. Willie Gay got hurt early in that game.
That's right.
And they still beat the Bengals, and the Bengals have never recovered from that night. I'm pretty sure the Bengals went back to Cincinnati and turned on the tape and oh my God. We lost. They were playing guys out of row 6 and have never been the same team. That game exemplifies who they are. Right. And and my point is I give them all the credit in the world for that, but I don't want to be in that spot all the time where I'm okay, it's Najee Johnson against Khalil Shakir for 80 snaps. Let's do it. I prefer not to have to go down that road.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair stance to have. I do think when you're looking at these other additions, I'm trying to think of where we should go next. I think let's talk about Jalen Moore because I think that's the biggest addition outside of Christian Fulton's maybe the most exciting addition. Jalen Moore might be the biggest addition that the Chiefs have had so far this free agency.
Most important addition, yeah.
Because he's going to be your left tackle. It's fully anticipated it's going to be his left tackle. As that contract kind of came out, Matt, it's a 2-year deal. I know a lot of people were saying it's a 1-year trial deal. They'll give him this. They'll give him some time to start. He's making starter money, and he will be here for 2 years. That is what's going to happen. That's what came out from his contract stuff. Thoughts on Jalen Moore?
I was really lukewarm on it because I'm look, he's got 12 starts in his career.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I sat here and was I think it's great. I don't know if it's great. Here's the range of outcomes. He's played 12 games, okay, in 4 years. He could get out there and absolutely suck. And you're yeah, this is a disaster. They paid this guy $30 million and he can't play football. It could be the middle take where you're you know what? 2 years and $30 million is not a huge amount of money for a left tackle, and he's serviceable, and it's okay. And if it's that, I'd argue that's a successful signing. If it's that's successful. Then there's door number 3 where you're oh my God, this guy's actually really good, and they signed this guy for 2 years and 30, Veach for executive of the year. That's also in play. My guess is we probably, like most things in life, probably push toward the middle.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Which again, if it is, that's fine. I will say this. I think on Sports Illustrated's grade tracker, I gave it a C+ because to me, that's average. I was all right, you know what? That's average, a little upside. That's fine. Then I saw Dan Moore's contract and tried to fight to get back into Voltax to give the Chiefs an A+. Because that is a stagger. Can I give an H as a grade? Can we just go full? That contract is so egregious.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought it was fake. the way this works, to show the sausages, a little inside baseball. Our team at SI, there's 4 national guys. There's Albert Breer, there's Connor Orr, there's myself, and there's Gilberto Manzano. And Gil and Connor, congrats to them and their families, both just had children. So they're both on paternity leave. So it's Breer and I. And I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but Albert Breer is a little higher on the totem pole than I am. So while Breer's out there doing the Lord's work, reporting on Monday about all these signings, I'm the asshole who's just grinding away in the tracker because there's nobody else. I'm it. I'm the last line of defense. Well, my editor is dropping in these tweets like on a conveyor belt, and I'm basically Lucille Ball and I Love Lucy with like Vita Vita Veg. I'm just like blackout drunk at this point, trying to like take in all these tweets. And I'm looking and like, okay, it's like this one and that one. And then I clicked on that and I was like, John, this isn't real. Oh, sorry, God. Actually, no. Oh my God, it's real. Like somebody gave Dan Moore $82 million. And that somebody is former Chiefs front office man, Mike Borgonzi. I have questions. I have a lot of questions. Yeah. So after seeing that, I felt a lot better about Jalen Moore at 2-30.
I think that's a very fair reaction because luckily when we were on the breaking news team, that news did hit. So it's like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit better about that. But Matt, with this signing, I keep going back to what we talked about legitimately on Saturday. You said this where and I think you were 100% correctly. Whatever they did wasn't going to be a total overhaul fix at left tackle. Well, trading for Laramie Tunsil probably would have done it, but it sounds like the Texans wanted a lot of money or a lot of capital from the Chiefs to get that one done. I just come back to think, I don't know if there was one situation, one free agent left tackle out there where I would have been like, yes, that's a home run signing. Yeah, Veach got his guy.
Right, there's nothing we're going to be like, oh my God. Like, yeah, right, exactly.
Right, and that's the thing is like Jalen Moore, when you start to look at the money, probably the best deal, maybe the best bargain out of all the tackles that signed. Also interesting enough, as we're recording this podcast, Cam Robinson has not signed anywhere.
No, man's still out there.
He is still out there. He's still a free agent. Also, here's the thing that the Chiefs don't do very often. They got this done early in free agency. They got this done day one, opening bell while Twitter was still down. I had to turn on a TV to get the news like it was 1980 again. I do think...
No. I was at the gym like, son of a bitch. Twitter's not working. Then, like, in front of me, they had the TV, and they got Fox News on. And forgive, I swear to God, this isn't political. I would have said the same thing to CNN. I went over to the guy at the front of this one, turned that shit off, and put on SportsCenter because I got to know who the hell's getting signed. Like, I don't care what eggs cost right now. I don't care. I don't care, like, what Tesla's trading for. Like, right. I need to know right now, is a guard signing for $80 million? And
now, Jones, I need to know about Chris Jones.
Okay, that's fine. Like, all right then, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those situations. Made it for a way more eventful Monday than it would have been otherwise. But they got this done right at opening bell, as we could use for a stock trading term. I was impressed by that. Now I believe it was Albert Breer that reported that the Chiefs were going to offer Ronnie Stanley $20 million a year, but Ronnie Stanley opted to stick with the Baltimore Ravens. Makes sense, the continuity there, everything like that. But look, it's not like the Chiefs didn't try other avenues for left tackle. I do think this one, the upside. I keep hearing that about the upside of Jalen Moore here and how has a lot of upside. He's been learning under Trent Williams. I think the Chiefs really do like that about him, is that he's had the opportunity to learn from a tackle that they did try to get a few free agency cycles ago, and have the opportunity to make him a starter in the National Football League. But there is some hesitancy with him only playing starting a handful of games so far. But look, here's the thing too. You look at the tape, you turn on the tape, Matt Lane and Seth Kaiser both have done film reviews on him. You can go check those out. Probably fair. I think I fall probably somewhere in the middle of both Matty and Seth, where like I think the scheme for Shanahan doesn't necessarily like protected him a little bit in terms of what what he was doing on there. I don't know if we see a lot of what he would do in Kansas City, if that makes sense. Like there's some things that you see a whole lot in Kansas City blocking scheme wise that you didn't see in the Shanahan offense. So it's kind of fully hard to wrap your head around it. But I do think that this signing is, probably the best they could have done with the free agents that were available and the money that was going out there, Matt. And look, they also had a running back with Elijah Mitchell like 10 minutes later as well. So they add some bodies to the running back room. Now, if Elijah Mitchell will be healthy for the full year, that is still yet to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Chiefs, you're probably looking at a running back in like day 2 here.
Yeah, you got to.
The class is insane. Like, if you are not familiar with the draft yet, and I don't blame you, I'm actually actively trying not to be familiar with the draft because I just can't do it mentally. Not kid. D tackle, D end, running back, probably like the 3 deepest spots. It's specifically D tackle and running back.
Yep.
So, which kind of makes me wonder if the Chiefs are going to sign a D end, and before we get to the draft, and then are just I wonder. I mean, they don't have to because they do have FAU and Dano. I think and obviously Karlaftis, so they don't have to. But that's where like if you're going to have a spot going to the draft, you're like, okay, got to find somebody like those probably the spots to do it. Yeah, I mean, look, Elijah Mitchell, to his credit, is very talented. The problem is
very much so.
Never healthy.
Yes.
He just never plays. So, that he's like the pitcher who throws 100 and is out there for like April, and you're like, man, here comes the pennant. And then, he throws like the 5th pitch of the first game he started in May, and the camera pans to him, and you just hear the color guys like, oh God, Trainer's coming out. And then they show him like, and it like looks really innocuous. So like he's flexing his elbow, and you're like, all right, yeah, maybe it's just a little something. And then like 2 days later, you're like, he's got his arm amputated. It's over. They cut it straight off. I feel like that's basically Elijah Mitchell's a running back. But the hope is, hey, you know what? He's limited in his role, obviously, and they can keep him fresh, and he can play and have, whatever it is, 75 touches and fine. But he might be this year's Irv Smith Jr., where you get to camp and you're like, oh, yeah, right, him. Although that might also be Robert Tonyan. So who knows?
Big Bob, baby. Big Bob's back. He's back. He couldn't stay away.
Yeah, that's right.
Very funny though. I was looking for highlights of Robert Tonyan, right, to put on because he had a pretty decent year with the Packers. I can't.
He had 11 touchdowns one year.
Yeah, like he was like pretty. He had a pretty decent year with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And I was looking for I was like, okay, I want to find these highlights to put them in the Chiefs News Daily video. And it was on the Chicago Bears YouTube channel, and I thought that was funny. It was just like Robert Tonyan highlights, because wasn't he on like the practice squad for a hot second? And so the Bears were like, oh yeah, let's put on Robert Tonyan highlights. People will be feeding over these. But what you say in terms of like the pitching, like the pitcher that has all the talent, I think Royals fans will understand the reference of Alberto Mondesi. When it comes to it, like that dude had all the talent in the world, but like hurt all the time. That's kind of what Elijah Mitchell is.
I grew up an A's fan. For anyone who's a baseball fan, Rich Harden will always be that guy to me. Who people are probably, who the hell's Rich Harden was throwing like 98 before guys were typically throwing 98.
Yeah,
he was there right after they had Hudson Mulder and Zito. And you were like, oh my God, like this guy, like they got him, they got Dan Herron, they've got all these dudes, and never could pitch. He would go out there and he'd pitch 3 innings and get hurt, and then he'd miss a year, and he'd come back, great for a month, and you'd be like, "Oh, great! Look at that, he's hurt again," and it never ended. Like you got, and at some point, you just have to say, "All right, it's enough." Like Rich Harden in his career, he pitched how many games? He pitched 160 games over the course of 9 years.
Oh wow!
And like
a full year.
He just never could stay. He was so talented, man. But it's just, he can never get out there. He can never stay on the field.
Yeah.
That's where he goes.
Reminds me of another guy the Chiefs just re-signed, Hollywood Brown. He's back with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year deal. Look, there's some wide receiver stuff that we can talk about, but let's take our last break here. At the end of the show, we'll wrap up with some wide receiver stuff and what we kind of want to see the Chiefs do next here on that football show.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
But I don't know if you've seen this. New West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez just revealed he's banned his players from TikTok dance.
I did see that. Just thank God. Thanks, Rich. That's great. Then now you guys are guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff.
Glad someone's taking a stand on what's really, plaguing college football.
No, awesome. Thank God for that. I'll tell you right now, my Virginia Cavaliers on College Football 25, they can put all the TikTok things out there that they want. I don't give a damn.
Yeah. Have a happy locker room, like let the locker room, you gotta have a good environment, good vibes in the locker room, good tone in the locker room.
Can't build the programs out there worrying about TikTok. We're worried about running Duo, damn it. We're worried about running it up in there.
You're focused on the wrong things, Rich.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? You're worrying about TikTok. We're running it up in there for 6 yards a clip. Okay? So I love these coaches in college. There is not a group of people who are more holier than thou. Oh. I mean, there's nobody because and you don't get that in the pros as much because these players make more than the coaches in a lot of cases.
Yes.
And they're in big cities, right?
Uh-huh.
So even Andy Reid obviously is the big kahuna, right? For sure. But Andy Reid's also in a parking lot with a team that while he's been there has won World Series. Ned Yost was a huge figure, and right? Not Andy Reid maybe, but there are other guys. Patrick Mahomes is bringing Andy Reid into his commercial. Okay? Yes. It's different. When you're Jim Boeheim up in Syracuse, you didn't get away with it. Big something swinging, right? You are that guy. Or Jim Calhoun in Storrs, Connecticut. Let me tell you something. I've been to Storrs, Connecticut. Okay? There's nobody else. Now it's Gino Auriemma, but it's those two basketball coaches. And the point I make is just these guys feel the ultimate sense of entitlement. Dabo Sweeney, Clemson, these guys start getting paid. That's when the hellfire comes raining on down. It's shut up. You're getting paid a fortune. You're just, God knows, committing mass recruiting infractions. I don't want to hear that out of you ever. I'm sorry, the players don't have to eat ramen noodles anymore. And the guy got $100,000 in NIL money, and Dabo Sweeney's this is the beginning of hell. That's great, Dabo. Thanks. There's a lot of stuff wrong with college football right now. I don't love the guys who just transfer 9 times, and there's a million things. Okay, fine.
Right.
Some guy not having to eat soup out of a can because he got in with a car dealership is not one of the problems, But I love that these coaches who are making a fortune, who and in some cases aren't even good, are right. You know what the problem is now? That kid, he can eat 3 meals a day. That's great. Thanks for that. So Rich Rod, good job by you. That was the problem. It wasn't the fact that you're not that good of a coach. It was that TikTok was getting in the way. Yeah. Now that we've banned TikTok, now we're ready to go 11-1 and challenge Alabama.
Matt Rule did the same thing, I believe, at Nebraska. So they've got it figured out. It's good. It's good. The Chiefs do re-sign Hollywood Brown. Now this comes after 2 hours after the news of Xavier Worthy's arrest hit. We don't need to spend a ton of time on that. I just think it's fascinating how fast that major breaking news story became just legitimately nothing in the span of 6 hours, maybe 8 hours. It was oh no, the Chiefs are screwed to start the year because their 2 best
are out there, and
it's the Chiefs' 2 best wide receivers are going to be in jail to start the season.
Well, I will say, because you're right, there's no reason to spend a ton of time on this. It seems like it's pretty much a non-story at this point. Yeah. I got to tell you, the amount of and not, I don't want to put this all in one fan base because that's I'm sure not fair, but it was just my Twitter feed. The amount of Bills fans on my Twitter feed who were just, there was one guy who I will just not name who was literally making fun of the whole situation. And I was oh, hope this ages well. You're rooting for domestic violence. That's great, man. Yeah. way to go. It was not everyone's finest moment on Twitter. Like, look, sometimes just let it go, man.
Yeah. Let's wait. Like, I think that was my biggest takeaway of just like, let's wait a beat or a beat and a half before we decide to just go ahead and, number one, lambast a dude, or number two, cast complete judgment over a whole situation. I think that's kind of a general good rule of thumb, is just like, let's just think about it for a second.
If a player on another team gets into a situation where there's an alleged physical violent act going on, and your response is going to make him easier to beat in November, like, baby, but bro, my God.
Take a look.
Are there not bigger things in your life? Like, holy crap, dude. Like, that's the response out of that. Look, I learned a long time ago. I remember when Tyreek Hill was accused of injuring his son. Okay. Yeah. I remember a long, long time ago, like, my initial reaction to that was like, oh, he's going to get cut, all this stuff. Like, he didn't even get suspended. Like, as it turned out, there was, the allegation never ended up getting turned into a charge.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, nobody really ever found out, like, what happened or didn't happen. There was ambiguity there. But the point is, everybody and their mother was just like, oh, he's gone. He didn't even get suspended. Like, so I've learned over the years, like, let it play out. You just don't know what you don't know. And when you get this, even this Rashee Rice thing, now, obviously, this is a little different. There's video. Okay. Like, it's different than the other things I just mentioned. But I don't know what's going to happen with him legally. No. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea how it's going to play. And I don't know the NFL doesn't have a very, like, if this happens and this happens, if that happens and that. There's a world he suspended 8 games. There's a world he's run out the tunnel week 1. Like, I don't know. So I know sometimes people will be like, well, what's your opinion? I'm like, my opinion is I don't know, because that's the right opinion to have.
Yes. It's okay to not know things. Like,
yes. I'd rather you tell me you don't know than be the guy who's like, I'll tell you what I think, and then he's just brazenly off base. Like,
yes,
it's okay not to know.
I think sometimes in the current climate that we're in, you feel like you have to know everything. Look, I don't know about aviation. Like, I enjoy aviation, but I'm not going to be an aviation expert when I see a tipped over Delta plane, right? I'm not going to act like I knew what was going on.
I'm not going to act like I know what was going on, but I am going to act like I'm guessing I could at least put that thing on the ground right side up. Now, yeah. Now, we might have gone off the runway at 2,000 miles an hour and gone right through the airport, but I would have got it on the ground on wheels and not on the roof. I feel good about that.
But anyway, the Chiefs signed Hollywood Brown. So, like, this, again, like, this kind of, I think that this move was always going to happen. And the timing of it happening right after the Xavier Worthy news is interesting. But I do think that this was a contract, a move that the Chiefs were always going to make to bring him back, especially when you look at the wide receiver room. Now, when you look at that wide receiver room, they have a lot. You feel a little bit better about wide receiver when you add Hollywood Brown in there with, Nico or Mikio's in there. I don't know how much wide receiver snaps he's actually going to get, but a good returner at least to have on the roster. Sky Moore on the roster, I don't know how much he'll get, but then also Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice as well, barring obviously suspensions. Throw Hollywood Brown in there. He's probably your wide receiver 3 as of right now, if all things hold, when it comes down to it, on that wide receiver room.
I think the receiver room at this point is adding one guy, and it's either going to be a draft pick or it's going to be, just a vet. We'll see what they go. But yeah, I mean, Sky Moore, the ride continues, I think. I think we're just getting like wide receiver 6 at this point out of Sky Moore. But yeah, he'll be there, I would think. And
you got to run it out, You just got to play it out. I think this is kind of what you got to let it run its course and be like, all right.
One guy, though, seriously, we've not talked about at all, and maybe for good reason, in terms of offense. Can Nico Remigio play receiver?
I think it's a worthy thing to try out.
Like, I remember watching that Denver game and like hysterically laughing the entire game, but also being like, he's the one dude who actually looks like an NFL player in this game right now. Like, he's constantly open and Carson Wentz just can't hit him. Like, if I were the Chiefs, I would explore that a little bit.
Yeah,
I would explore that guy. I'd be, hey, Nico, in the preseason, you're a starting receiver for us. Let's see what you got. And by the way, I'm not saying I think he's going to go out there and 900 yards, but like, can he be a guy who is like Byron Pringle? You know, can he give you 500? Like, I don't know. Maybe he can't. Maybe that's not his deal. And he's just a really good returner, and that's fine. Need that too. But I'd at least check into it.
They need someone to line up an X wide receiver and just kind of do cardio because Justin Watson's with the Texans now. So like they need somebody out there to run the cardio. Quickly before we get out of here, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, Devin Duvernay, KJ Osborne, Nelson Aguilar, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Zach Pascal, Elijah Moore. I just threw all those wide receiver names out there because those are all current free agent wide receivers. And yes,
I'm good.
Yeah.
Diggs is the only guy I have any interest in at this point. The rest of these guys. And that includes Cooper Kupp when he gets released. I don't want Cooper Kupp.
You know, truthfully, Amari Cooper on a 1-year deal, I wouldn't hate. I think Amari Cooper on a 1-year deal. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins goes to the Ravens. Interesting group that they're putting together there. I tweeted out they have the retirement home wide receiver room because I don't know if you saw this. Bleacher Report tweeted it out. It's like, oh, look at this wide receiver room and put Odell Beckham Jr. on there. I was like,
wow.
Hold on.
Wow. Yeah, I always love the tweets of these companies like Bleacher Report. They tweet out, who's going to stop this offense? And then like they conveniently leave out the fact the quarterback is like, Kenny Pickett.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking everybody's going to stop that offense.
Any competent defensive coordinator?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when the Chiefs, I remember like years ago when the Chiefs signed Le'Veon Bell, and like we got like 5 of those tweets. Who's going to stop Le'Veon? It's like, as it turns out, everyone.
Yeah. Le'Veon Bell. He wore 26, and sometimes that's the most memorable 26 that I think of, even though Damian Williams was 26. When I think of 26 as a Chief, I think of Le'Veon Bell.
Wow.
Wild.
It's a huge slap in the face to Damian Williams, who actually did something as a Chief.
It is, who probably should have won Super Bowl MVP, too.
Yes.
If we're being honest about that whole thing. But all right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of That Football Show. We'll be back on Saturday with more updates. That'll be more NFL heavy. Also, let us know in the comment section what you want us to power rank. We've got some ideas of what we want to power rank, but make sure to let us know. I appreciated everyone's lists that I got tweeted and the responses and the replies.
Actually,
great.
We got to finish on this, I know, but my father, who I mentioned on the show, is a big birder. He would like to throw in 3 that he said we missed.
Okay.
Bush tit.
Yeah.
American woodcock. And this is my personal favorite, all hyphenated, cock of the rock. Lance Verderame, ladies and gentlemen.
That's going to do it for That Football Show here on KC Sports Network. We'll talk to you guys on Saturday.